How to set boundaries and stop people pleasing. In this video, I'm going to share how exactly you can help build your own boundaries, stop people pleasing, and still be kind. Because in a lot of these videos, I see a lot of people teaching about how to set boundaries, and basically they're just saying, become a mean person. You still want to be kind and you still want to be respected and have relationships with people, but your boundaries are still important. And I'm going to break down exactly where you can start and where you can end because I have some strong boundaries. So let's start by defining boundaries. What actually are boundaries, or let's say personal boundaries? These are just beliefs, rules, or limits that we set for ourselves by ourselves. And these are actually extremely important. Everybody should have a set of boundaries. Just like people have morals, those are also their boundaries. And this is not a video to judge other people. You can set your own boundaries. So if other people don't agree with your boundaries, that is their problem. Let them have their own boundaries. You have your own boundaries based on your own opinions, thoughts, and beliefs. If you are a people pleaser, you may actually have all the boundaries that you need. You just let people cross the boundary and walk over the boundary all the time. So this video is still going to help you. Sometimes you might think, well, I do have pretty strong boundaries. Yeah, but you're letting people cross them. So you're going to learn how to block everyone from crossing those boundaries. And speaking of your own personal boundaries, this is actually exactly where you want to start. You need to take a moment or a few moments to ask yourself what your boundaries actually are. There are so many different kinds of boundaries, whether it's financial, in relationships, behavior, however you want to put it. In most areas of our lives, we do have certain boundaries. And so first you need to figure out what your boundaries are, because people will easily walk over your boundaries if you don't know where the boundary is or what the boundary is. So start by establishing your boundaries first. So once you have them, then we can move on to the next step. This is making your boundaries become a part of your identity. For me, this is the only way to make your boundaries work. And how do you make it part of your identity? Definitive words are a great place to start. And by this, I mean words that portray that you're still thinking about it, like you're not really settled. I'll give an example from Atomic Habits. James Clear gives an example from a different book that he read, and he was talking about someone who smokes cigarette and the difference in behavior from someone who says, I don't smoke, versus someone who says, I'm trying to stop smoking. So if you're trying to quit smoking and you've decided that you're not going to smoke anymore, you're not even reducing the amount. If you go out and someone says, oh, hey, would you like a cigarette? You can say, no, I don't smoke. And they can say, but I saw you smoking last week. And it's like, yeah, but I quit. So I don't smoke anymore. I don't smoke. If you say, I'm trying to stop smoking, they'll be like, well, you can have one. And you'll be like, yeah, I've done pretty well. I haven't had a cigarette in 2 weeks, so let me at least have one. It's going to be easy for not only other people to persuade you to do something, but also for yourself to persuade yourself. So if you are a heavy chain smoker and now you say, I will only smoke 2 cigarettes a day. I used to smoke a whole pack a day. Now I only smoke 2 cigarettes. If someone comes up to you and you've already had 2 cigarettes and they offer you a cigarette, you can say, no, I've already smoked 2 cigarettes today and I only smoke 2 a day. I can't go beyond that. They're not going to force you because you've said it definitively. But if you say, I'm trying to only have 2 a day, they'll be like, well, 1 more is not that much. Come on, let's go and chat outside with a smoke. So use definitive words. So now that you know your boundaries, use your definitive words, you have set the boundaries. How do you actually do it? How do you actually make yourself do it? And how do you make other people respect your boundaries? Because you hear a lot of people saying, yeah, no, that guy just doesn't respect my time. I've told him so many times that I'm not available for this, but he keeps doing this all over and over again. And it's making me work for so much longer than I thought because he doesn't respect my time. No, you are letting that person cross your boundaries. So once you are sure and you have definitive reasons, now we need to talk about how to put those boundaries in action. The best place to start is with yourself. If you do not respect your own boundaries, nobody's going to respect your own boundaries. So how do you actually start respecting your own boundaries? By giving yourself little tasks and then doing them. For example, if your new boundary is that you have to work out every single day, even if it just means 5 minutes. You make your little to-do list in the morning, you put workout for 5 minutes in the day, or I have to drink, there's no way I cannot drink 2 liters of water a day. I have to drink 2 liters of water a day. When you set that goal, make sure you do it. Because if you keep saying every day, I'm going to drink 2 liters of water, I'm going to work out, even if it's just for 5 minutes, and you don't do it, you are building a pattern with yourself, and it's making sure that you do not trust yourself. Imagine yourself as a separate entity. So if you're doing what you're doing to yourself, to someone else, think about how they'd react. The same way you look at other people and be like, I can't trust that this person's actually going to do what they say they do because they don't usually live up to it. That is the same way you're going to look at yourself. Whether you are aware of it or not, you know that if you say you're going to work out 5 times a week, you're probably not going to do it. So if you cross your own boundaries, it will be very easy for other people to also cross your own boundaries as well, because you know that you don't respect your boundaries. So why should other people respect them? So now we're getting to the point where you've moved through all these steps. You've set your boundaries, you've said things that you're going to do, and you actually do them. Now we get to the point where you have to get other people to respect your boundaries. The first thing you can do is share them very concisely and kindly. Do not be rude about it, because if you are rude, you will never get your way. In general, you can usually get away with a lot of things. I know this sounds bad, but you can get away with a lot of things if you're really nice. If a cop comes up to you and they've stopped you because maybe you were over speeding, if you are really nice to them, they will most likely be lenient on you. They might let you go or something like that. Simply because you're nice, just be like, oh, hi, officer. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm not talking about flirting. I'm talking about genuinely being a nice person. I'm so sorry. I wasn't aware that I was speeding. I won't do it again. I didn't see the speed sign. Something like that. But if the cop stops you and you're like, yeah, I know I was speeding. So what? Tell me. I know I was speeding. Just give me the fine. You're most likely to not get your way. So in general, even when you're sharing your boundaries, people are more likely to respect your boundaries if you say them clearly and also kindly. Because when a lot of people cross your boundaries, it's because they may not have boundaries themselves, or they don't have the same boundaries as you, so they don't think it's a problem. So they just easily cross it and they're not trying to hurt you on purpose. Now, the people that are, you can give them that energy. But a lot of people in many situations are not actually trying to cross your boundaries on purpose. They just don't realize that that's your boundary. And how would they know if you don't tell them? So when I had a full-time job, for the first part of my contract before I was promoted, there was no such thing as overtime. And so if I worked on a weekend, I wouldn't get paid for that. If I worked beyond my work hours, I wouldn't get paid for that. And if someone asked me to do something on their behalf, like to help them with their job, I wouldn't be paid for that. So if something that's outside my role, if I do it, I could do it if I wanted to or if I was asked to, but I wouldn't get paid for it. And so I had very strong boundaries about that. If they would suggest that I work overtime, I would go back and ask them, will I be compensated for this? If they say no, I would say, unfortunately, I have other commitments at this time. I will not be able to help you. I would have people in the office who would ask me to help them. And I'm not talking about being unhelpful. Of course, someone says, oh, I really need to do this. I'm rushing out. I have a doctor's appointment. I have this to do. Can you just help me with this quickly? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I've got time right now. But if it's something consistent, or I know that you just don't want to do it, so you want to hand it off to like a junior person, like, oh, here, can you just do this on my behalf? I would say, no, I have other things to attend to at this time. Unfortunately, I am unable to help you. And they might be a little bit taken aback or upset, but after a very short amount of time, I was never asked to work overtime. I was never asked to do anyone else's work because they knew that if they asked me, I would say no. And it was not in their rights to fire me or reprimand me for something because it was outside my role. Also, when I did get promoted, I made sure to put in my contract that if they do not pay me for my overtime or my work on the weekend, I could pick my own day off at any other time in the week, like a second day off if they didn't want to pay for it. I put everything that I wanted in that contract because I knew that if they did ask me to do something that was not in my contract, I would simply say no, because what are you going to do? Fire me for doing my job the way you wanted me to do it? So if you say it very concisely, and instead of being rude and responding to me, my boss is like, how dare you? You don't even pay me that much. Why don't you ask somebody else to do it? they will most likely be disrespectful to you as well. Another thing is I really respect my time and I set boundaries with my time. So this has actually been something I've been experiencing recently. If someone messages me or tries to call me or sends me a business email after 5, I tell them that I do not take business calls after 5. And sometimes, even after I tell someone I don't take business calls after 5, they will still call me, they will still text me. So, what do? I just ignore the call. I pretend it's not ringing. When they send me an email or they send a text message, I will not respond until it's within my business hours. And that is how you teach people how to treat you, because eventually, 2 or 3 times after, they're like, "Ugh, there's no point in me messaging them at 10 p.m. because I know she's only going to answer me at like 8 p.m. at 8 a.m. the next day. So I might as well just text her within her working windows." When it comes to international transactions, that's different because obviously I know there's a time difference. So I'm accommodating to that. That is within my boundary. And this now leads to learning how to say no. I know a lot of people, especially if you are a people pleaser, it is very difficult for you to say no because you want people to like you and you think that if you say no, this person is going to be really upset with you, or you're basically assuming how they're going to react. So if someone says, let's say you are feeling really sick, like maybe not deathly ill, but you're feeling a little sick, you're feeling tired, you don't really want to go anywhere. And then your friend calls you up and says, "Hey, do you want to go out? There's a party I want to go to." You might be thinking, "Ugh, I don't really want her to go alone. Maybe she'll be sad if I say no. So even though I'm feeling sick, let me just kind of like force myself and muster up the energy to go to this party." What you could just say is, "Actually, I'm feeling a little under the weather. Can you just let me know the next time and I'll come with you? But right now, I don't really feel like going." They might be a little bit like, I really wish you did come because I didn't want to go alone, but they will understand. Also, remember that saying no to something else is saying yes to something else. So if someone says, "Hey, let's go, I've got this big party," knowing that you have maybe a big presentation or something that's really important to you that you have to work on very early in the morning, if you go out, you know that in the morning you won't be able to do that to your full potential and you'll probably lose out on money or getting something done on time, something that physically affects you because you wanted to please someone else. But if you say no to the other person, you can say, "No, actually, I have a really important presentation that I have to do in the morning. So I will see you. We can do it the next time." And you have an amazing presentation in the morning. So that no actually said yes to you having the best presentation you could have. Now, something I want to focus on, or at least just double down on, is that again, you want to do things kindly. You don't want to become selfish, okay? Now, some people would call you selfish for just saying no to anything, and clearly they have a problem with their own boundaries. Leave them alone. If they need to fall out of your life, then that's what's just gonna happen. You have to set boundaries and do everything within reason. I see a lot of people saying things like, "You don't have to give a reason." So let's say you have a friend that's like become very toxic, and maybe you've been friends with this person for many years, and you may not be aware that the toxic person in the relationship is you and you think they're the toxic one. I think that is where you have a conversation about your boundaries and say, "You did this affected me, you did this." And then if it ends by you guys not wanting to be friends anymore, you could say, "I don't wish to continue this friendship." I'm seeing a lot of people saying, if this person is terrible, just ghost them and pretend they don't exist. And it's like, you might have been the problem, and sure, maybe ghosting them would still work, but I think it's still respectable to just voice your opinion. And the bonus is something that a lot of people ask when it comes to boundaries, especially when I tell them about how strict I am with my boundaries. Someone would say, like, what about if the person doesn't respect your boundaries, even after you tell them what your boundaries are? All you have to do is keep reinforcing your boundary up to a certain point. There's a very high chance that if you tell someone your boundary one time, they might not listen to it. So let's say you drink alcohol, but you only drink on weekends, and you've gone out with your friends during the week and they're saying, "Hey, here, just have a drink." And you say, "Oh no, I don't drink during the week." The next time you go out, they might just be thinking like, maybe she was just having a week, let's try again. Come on, drink another glass. It may take 3 or 4 times to reinforce your boundary, but if you've been doing this over and over and over and over again, and they don't respect your boundaries, it is time to also not respect that person and just end the friendship and the relationship, or just ignore them. Like what I was saying, if you keep texting me, if I tell you I do not work beyond 5, and every time you send me a work email, you always send it at 7 p.m., I will also always respond at 8 a.m. in the morning. I will always respond within the working hours. And so the person will either get annoyed and decide to stop contacting me, or they will learn to respect my boundaries. If you want a video on how to become the luckiest person you know, check this video right here. I would love to see you in more of these kinds of motivational type videos. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Hit my face right there to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next one.